But Marcia, I give thanks to God. You know why? I believe in God, and I believe in the power of God, and I believe that there are powers and principalities at work that would want to see a different outcome than the one that we want to see. So this is a struggle. This is a struggle for the lives of the people of Barbados. I'm not Billy Graham. I'm not trying to be Billy Graham now. I'm not Farrakhan. I'm not trying to be Farrakhan. I'm Philip Nathaniel Catlin Springer. And I'll say it that way tonight because a lot of people know me as Philip Springer. Most people don't know me as Philip Catlin. That's how I was born. That's the name given at birth. But I don't have to go through the explanation of how I got the Springer part. It's all legitimate. What I will say is that I have God on my side. And I believe that today it is only by a miracle that I did not come out of that car any more damaged than I am. Just my shoulders, those exploded. The airbag, all four of them activated. And I have turned that around. I was not accelerating rapidly because it was raining out and the road obviously was wet. So I was actually driving pretty normal, maybe even less than normal to some degree. The fellow that I hit even said to me, I can't understand. You weren't speeding. I wasn't speeding. He's sliding, I'm sliding, and we both can't control the vehicles, and boom, boom, boom. The rest is history. I was a little upset at first, but I had to step back and God, this, whatever attack this is, what this is to be, it's meant to blow me down in crime before noon in all to review these tomorrow. So having accident, it took 30 to get sorted out, and I refused to leave the scene. Even when the police took the reports and stuff, and he said, "You go to the doctor," because my arm was by that time swelling, and I had a bit of blood on me, and he said, "You know, go, just get to the doctor." I said, "No, I'm going to the Supreme Court first." And I toughed it through, and I went there, and God gave me favor. There was a young man sitting on the side of the street with his vehicle. He was parked, not sitting. He was sitting in his vehicle, parked on the side of the street. When it all happened, he saw the whole thing. And he came running to my car because I was injured. And when he realized that I wasn't, he was so relieved. He said, where you got to get to? I'll take you. I'll wait here with you until you have to get wherever you have to get to. I don't know this young man. I have his number and stuff in my phone now. Long and the short of it is, I was able to get to the Supreme Court with about half an hour, not even 15 minutes or so of time in what we were allotted to get these documents sworn and basically uploaded into the court system, because it's done now because of off-site, people working off-site and stuff like that. It's not the old days where you go in and everything is done there. You have to get sworn and then you have to go on, upload them and all kinds of stuff. Marcia, this is the fight of our lives. This is the fight for our lives. This is the fight for the people of Barbados being sovereign. If we lose this election in any way, shape, or form, I'm afraid what is coming at us is going to be shocking to most people. I really believe that. I'm not sitting here in any way trying to incite people or get people nervous. People are already very anxious out there. They're very nervous. They're very upset. In walking in the constituencies, I didn't get to do any of that today because my whole day was taken up between the court and the doctor. And by the time I got home, I was so drained and worn out. I laid on my couch for a bit until now. But I plan to go out after this show. I have Michael and Boss Cabell doing. I was supposed to be appearing on stage with him later tonight. I have some other people out there doing their thing. So I've invited Fallon Best to join us. if he can make it. Otherwise, I have a message for the people of Barbados tonight. And I think maybe it's a good thing that I'm here to not have to share the screen with other people, because it's important that I get this message out. I received a call from Guadeloupe about 2 hours ago. And my people there told me, Philip, this is a very serious day. This is the next 24 hours are the most critical 24 hours in your entire life and in the life of Barbados. They know what's going on. People know what's going on around the place. They were going to send me a video tonight that they wanted me to air on your show, but I haven't seen it, so I didn't want to take the liberty of sending it and not knowing exactly what the content of it is. But it has to do with their pushback on the vaccine and the vaccine mandates, and their resolution, their resolve to not be bullied by the powers to be. I can tell you that this election is going to be won and lost on one thing. There are many other little splinters that will come out of it. But you see, this pandemic, the people, this is your time, not to let them reset, but for us to reset. This is the time for us. We are the power. We are the people. Nothing moves without us. If we all sat down tomorrow and decided not to cooperate or acquiesce to any of their requests, they can't do anything. They can't kill us all at the same time. They can't starve us all out if we choose not to buy into their systems or whatever. If we choose not to go to work tomorrow, nothing moves. We are the people. We are sovereign. I am not here, Marcia, to incite anyone or cause anyone to go do radical things, but I'm here to tell the people of Barbados and the Caribbean and the wider world, because people are watching us all over. I have friends and contacts all over that I ask to zoom in on these shows and give me critique after the fact, right? I will say to you, Marcia, that if there's a time that we have to be vigilant, it is now. If there's a time that we have to be scared and take action, take proaction. The proaction is to vote this government out of power. I'm going to go further tonight. I think all the established parties that have been here for the past 55 years do not deserve to be re-elected or to be elected or to be even given consideration. It is time the people of Barbados take control of their own destiny. We can manage. Somebody said any fool can play cricket, any fool can do this, any fool can do that. I find it interesting that any fool can run the country. Any fool can be an attorney general. Any fool can be a politician. I'm not picking on anyone, but this is not about the madam or anybody, right? I'm just saying comments like that are very telling. When you call your citizens fools, any fool can this, any fool can that. It says that you don't have the highest of respect for your country people, right? And I saw something today. I found it very interesting. 7:30, I'm on the road. I never saw them yesterday. I didn't see them the day before. I didn't see them last night. But 7:30 this morning, I was on the road and I saw vote Mia for Prime Minister. I did not know that Barbados had any allowance for voting for Prime Minister. We don't have any such thing. They never existed before this morning or before yesterday. I don't know when those posters went up, but they're not in one spot. I've seen them in Bridgetown today. I've seen them in the Pine. I've seen them in Christchurch. Right? Vote Mia for Prime Minister. Mia's pictures on every pole, every electrical pole in Barbados, over top of her candidates. We've never seen this before. I'm not saying it's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm saying wake up. What are we doing here? We are being told to give our proxies over again, and rules are being made as we go along, and we have no idea what those rules apply to. We have no idea how it is that now somebody's running for prime minister. Is Mayor Motley running for prime minister, or is Mayor Motley running for a seat in St. Michael Southeast or whatever it is?
Good question.
Mayor Motley's running for prime minister of Barbados. According to what I saw today and what I have observed in the past 3 weeks in terms of the posters going up, I don't see Verlinda Pisa over all of her candidates all over the country. You say, well, maybe it's a matter of economics. We've never seen ministers, because a prime minister is elected from within the party, whoever is the best suited and who is deemed to be the best suited from within the party, not from the country. The country elects ministers. But now we're voting for a prime minister. I would like someone to explain to me how we got here. There's a lot of things that we've arrived at, but we don't know how we got here. We are a republic. We don't know how we got here. We have a president. We don't know how we got there. We saw some optics, but we don't really know how that was decided.
May I interject there? There's a question here from Mr. Adrian Hines.
Yes.
Welcome again, Adrian Hines, and I'm going to ask you to share. This is a very interesting discussion tonight because an injunction has been filed today against this election, and that has been done by the Barbados Sovereignty Party, being led by Mr. Oh my goodness, your name went out of my head. What's
Gatlin Springer.
Philip Catlin Springer, right? Philip Catlin Springer, and Adrian Hines is asking. He's saying, "I'm afraid that all that will come of this attempted injunction is that the courts will side with the ECB and the government. We have not paid enough attention to Motley's reach and unspoken influence within the judiciary." What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. Absolutely. You are 100% correct, Adrian Hines. I don't know you. You don't know me. But I cannot disagree with anything you said here. I was actually reading it before you read it, Marcia, because I can see the things here in front of me clearly. And I will say this. We are still the citizens. We are still the people who put those 30 people there. And we are still the people that can bring them or send them home. If we don't like it, it's simple. We go to the ballot box on Wednesday and we vote a different reality than the one that we're seeing now. It's not that Miss Motley is a devil or she's a demon or I hear all kinds of nasty comments and stuff from people, right? I'm not going to get involved with that. I'm not here to criticize anybody. All I'm saying is, can we have some consideration as the citizens of this country? Can we be treated with some dignity and some respect? Can we have some transparency? Can we be co-equal partners with the government? Or are we servants in servitude? Are we subjected to whatever those 30 people say? We are currently in a dictatorship and we don't even realize it. And we have been for some time now. And it's been done so smooth that most people, if they see it, they're too afraid to even look. I'll tell you a strange thing that's going on. I have till midnight to file some documents at the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And I have to file 19 polling agents and 4 counting agents. Marcia, as we speak, I have about 8 or 10 people who have committed out of the more than 70 or 80 people that I've spoken to. And the one thing, and I don't have to say, I can bring people, there's people in this room where I am right now that can sit in front of this camera and tell you, because they're the people who are doing the groundwork for me. To a man, everybody is saying, you know, I'm scared. I don't, you know, by agreeing to go in as a counting agent or as a polling agent, the government's going to know who I am, and they're going to assume that I'm, or think that I'm here, there, or yon, and they feel that there will be retribution.
Wow. Because then they would not be associated with a certain party or
Correct.
certain parties. That's quite interesting.
I am not the
You know
only
what?
one.
This is exactly what Miss Mo is saying, that she's afraid.
Yeah.
And so
People
there's
are telling me.
Yes, go ahead.
You know, even despite all of my pain today, I still persevered, and I haven't closed my eyes. I haven't slept but maybe 3 hours last night, if I'm lucky. And I'm out there doing what I have to do. But people are telling me they're afraid. But it's not just me. I can bring Michael on. He's in Boscobel right now. He'll tell you he's having the same problem. I can tell you that all of our age, all of our ministers, all of our, so I said ministers, all of our candidates are struggling with the same issue. I just spoke to Fallon Bess a few minutes ago, and he's having the same problems, right? I think that these are issues that are going to polarize this country because most people are scared, even though they may not say it to you openly, but they'll say it behind the scenes. And oh, you know, I don't want to be associated with this or that because you know I don't want the powers to be to come down on me. I gotta go and ferret out a few dollars to feed my family or pay my bills or whatever. I have plenty of people who support what I'm doing. Indians, white, black, and even a few Chinese, because I'm very broad in my spectrum. I won't call names, but anybody that knows me know that I socialize and I mix with all mankind. I don't care where you come from, what you look like, as long as we can share a common human respect between each other. And I'm a person, I hear a lot of negative pushback. Oh, the Chinese going to do this, the Chinese going to do that. Marcia, somebody's going to do it if we let them, and nobody will do it if we don't let them.
It's up to the people. But before you go on to that, Wayne Hoyt is saying, because we want this to be as interactive as possible, guys.
Yes, please.
If you have any questions or any comments, Mr. Kathleen Springer, he's talking to us about the fear that people have, even in being polling agents. I can't believe that is in Barbados, you know. Leave that for Haiti or Jamaica or somewhere. But here in Barbados, people are even afraid to become polling agents. So is this what you're experiencing? Anybody else there? And Miss Mo is talking about the fear that she says, I'm afraid. You know, is that merited, really? Is that Barbados? But Mr. Hoyt is right now saying that it filed under a certificate of urgency. This is an injunction. The file goes to the CJ, Caribbean Justice, for him to assign it, or he could hear the application himself, as far as I know.
Correct.
However, you may not get a date of hearing within a day of filing. What do you say about that?
That is correct. He's very right in his statement. I'm amazed how educated our people are, and they know these things, but yet we've allowed these things to happen. There's a man, Mr. Wayne Hoyt here, who is very accurate in what he's saying. Before him, Mr. Adrian Hines. These people know what, I mean, they're educated. They're not stupid people. But it appears to me like the system is built to make you helpless. It's not that you're stupid. They make you believe that you don't have the right, or you cannot somehow muster sufficient support to defend your human rights. I am not concerned about your civil rights, because that's given to us and they can take that away from us. But human rights is given by God.
And you're mentioning human rights, and why are you, was a part of the intention?
Because that is the argument, that is the base argument of our filing.
Can you expound on that a bit?
Yes, I can. The basic rights that are being denied here are the right to earn a living, the right to go to school and be educated for our children, the rights to congregate in our places of worship, in our places of employment, in our social environments, right? Those are just some. There's probably about 6 altogether, but I will stop there. I don't want to go too far down the road.
But what about this election? What were?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. That is how it applies to this election. This election, they have taken all those rights away, but yet they have dropped us into an election with all of those things being contradictory to what they're telling us. They say 9 o'clock you have to be in your house, but on election night, COVID is going to go sleep for the night so y'all can come out. On New Year's, COVID went to sleep, everybody came out.
But I think right now the directive, we can be out until midnight. Is that still? I'm not sure if our
normally yes, but on election night there's no curfew. When they gave us the VAT-free holiday, there was no, we went out and we congregated, and Omicron, is now amongst us. By election day on Wednesday, 15 to 25,000 people will be affected with Omicron. I know probably 10 or 15 people who've been affected in the past 2 weeks, including my attorney, including my surveyor who does work for me in my projects or stuff like that, and many others that have been affected. And these are people that are responsible. They're not out there partying and carrying on and this and that. I go out and I canvass every day. I'm in close proximity to people. I am at risk personally by canvassing. That is where the president of this country should have been responsible as the representative of the people of this country to say to the prime minister, okay, you want to dissolve parliament, but we're in the middle of an emergency, a medical emergency. You declared it. You have restricted these people's rights. Do not now ask me to circumvent all of that and tell the people, force it upon them that they have to go put themselves in danger to re-elect you or any other government. This is the farce. This is the farce that we're up against. The people of Barbados are saying in a huge voice, I ain't vote. I ain't voting for nobody. You know what? I disagree with you, Barbados. I disagree with you, people who say you're not going to vote. You need to vote. This is the time for you to vote. This is the change. This is the point where we come to in the road. Where we come to that intersection. And we can either go left, we can go straight, or we can go right. Or we can just back up and let all the garbage dump on us, right? It's time for us in the next 24 hours. We have tomorrow, Tuesday, and then Wednesday morning, the polling stations will open.
I have a question here from Mr. Terry Clark. It says, well, I know it's taking up the whole of the screen.
Terry, you're always good at this stuff. I love you, brother.
It says, well, I've been seeing some emerging human rights questions within this election that can affect whole households. And what is more unsettling is that the legal fraternities are appearing to be silent. The only 2 people speaking to this are Leslie Haynes, QC, and Hal Gullop, QC of the EBC. Outside of the EBC, it is a female Jamaican lawyer who seemed to be fearless and passionate about the human rights violation that can affect many Bajans. And that's Michelle Russell from
Russell. But Garth Brooks has not Garth. Oh Lord, Garth Patterson. I almost said Garth Brooks, the country of Leslie. Garth Patterson has also come out and explained his position from a legal perspective. I respect his opinions. I love Michelle Russell. And I love how she has addressed this time and time again. The problem is it getting traction? It's not because she's saying something wrong or she's offensive or anything. But I think people are so afraid and caught up with their fears that they're not hearing. They're not hearing very well. It is very unfortunate. I want to say to my friend Terry there, I've known Terry Clark for quite a few years. When I came to Barbados, and Terry is a good man. But I want to say, Terry, while you're right, it does not help us to have all this knowledge and all this advice when we can't act upon it. And the CCJ, yes, while they will make a decision at some point in time, it's not relevant to me as to why we filed the injunction or the urgent application. The reason we filed it is because there had to be a record made of people not happy with these circumstances before the fact, not after the fact. If we waited until after the fact, well, the horse is already bolted from the barn. So they're going to say, well, you had all the time to do it, and even up to 1 minute before midnight, you didn't do it. So what's the deal? So I took the position that I will wait for senior people in this country to take that lead. I'm not one of those people. There are people who've been here a lot longer than me, and they've lived here all their lives, and they've served well. But nobody did. I heard Reverend Atherley speak to it on the radio and ask people to come and to support him in his quest to join and go forward. Nobody did. My team reached out to Atherley, Mr. Thompson, Michael Thompson, who's our general secretary, would have reached out to Brother Atherley. And we've never gotten anywhere with it, unfortunately. I'm not blaming one way or another, but what I will say, I spoke with Granville Phillips, and at first he was resistant to it as well. But as time went on, Granville called me and he said, Philip, boy, I think you're right. We have to go forward with this thing. Right?
But why did you, Mr. Springer? People are still joining, and I'm going to ask you to share, because here is somebody who is putting himself out there on his way to file the papers. Met into a very, very serious accident. His car is written off. The car of the other driver is written off as well. Thanks be to God, everybody's well. But why are you putting, and you put up your own money? To do this? Why are you?
Not just for me, but for some of the other candidates that are running that didn't have the resources. God has given me much, Marcia. I'm very happy to say that I'm a blessed child. I was born simple, but from humble beginnings. But over the years, I was able to make a thing or two, and I came back to Barbados, not because I wanted to. I would have been happy to be in my house in Ancaster, Ontario right now with my grandchildren. But the Lord put it upon my heart to come back to Barbados. And I resisted it for about 1.5 years until I couldn't anymore. When my wife filed for divorce after so many years of being married and I couldn't figure out why, it was because I was disobedient. And God told me that when I arrived here in the airport, and I fainted promptly in arrivals at Grantley Island. He said, you were disobedient. So I had to do that to take away from you all the things that you hold above me. Right? And I was very angry still. Like, how are you going to do that? Take away the one person I've been in love with all my life since we were teenagers, 13 years old. We met in high school. And our parents loved us both and loved each other, reciprocally. And my mother looked at me one Sunday when my then girlfriend was leaving our home, and her parents had just come to collect her. And my mother said to me, Philip, that's my daughter-in-law. I never want to see you with another woman as long as I live. Well, I'm thankful to God that she's dead, so I'm excused from that. Now I'm forgiven. So anyway, long story short, that girl has been in my life all that time, right up to the night we literally slept in the same bed. And next morning she told me she wanted the divorce. I couldn't figure out why. But when I finally decided to come to Barbados, I entered Barbados and promptly heard the voice and fainted right there in the airport. And it was like, wow. Anyway, these stories I keep mostly to myself because I'm not about to give people any any kind of messages to run around with out there. Long story short, my wife and I have mended a lot of those fences since then. We're still not back together. We're not in that type of frame of mind at this time, and that's wonderful. But we have two beautiful children together that we've raised all these years, and now 3 grandchildren to boot. All I'm saying, how does that all fit into here? Well, I could have left, and I thought about leaving when Corona hit. I could have gone back to Canada, and I have a home there, and be close to my family, because I knew it was going to be difficult to travel. But every time I was trying to make that decision, it was like, nope, 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 you have to be here. There's bigger assignments coming for you. So I kept asking God, well, do you want me to go to Cuba? Because I actually like Cuba. I've been there for about 12 years. The last 12 years, I've been there a lot. Probably half that time I've been back and forth between Cuba and Barbados. And no, that wasn't to happen, because when I tried to book a flight to Cuba, I couldn't get to Cuba. So needless to say, I was back at that same place again where I'm trying to run from God, and I couldn't. And this is where I was locked into. So there's obviously a fight that has to take place here. And when I say a fight, I don't mean a physical fight, but there's a fight here, the God fight, the Lucifer fight. It is about to take place in this country. There are lots of prophecies that are being shown around now. Up to today, someone sent one to me. I'm not looking for any negative story about Barbados. But Marcia, I will now share with you something that only a few people know of. Errol Griffith, Mike Goddard, Bruce Hennis, Leonard Payne. I went to sleep one night. I used to go to Full Gospel Businessmen with those fellows. When I first came to Barbados, I remember I looked in the paper and I saw an ad for Full Gospel. I thought, that's the group. I didn't know anything about them, but I just felt like I wanted to be associated with people like that. So I called them, and I think it was Errol Griffith that answered the phone originally, and he invited me to come, and I met Leonard and Mike Goddard and Bruce Hennis. Those were the first guys I met. Subsequently, John Snagg and others. Now, I'm going into a long story to tell you why I'm here. I'm here because when that happened, I just come out of a pretty horrible emotional thing, going through a divorce with the woman that I loved all my life. And I came here, I knew hardly anyone. Even though I was born here, I hardly knew anybody, leaving here as a child, coming back now as an adult. And I went to sleep one night, and I saw what was I thought it was a very scary dream, where I was on the West Coast. I was in Husbands Heights, to be exact, if there's such a place. I don't know why I said that name, but I know the area I'm talking about, just across from the UE, on this side of the UE, Husbands Terrace or something like that. Anyway, and I remember standing there, and in my vision, I saw what appeared to be a cloud forming over the west coast of Barbados. And it caught my attention because there were a number of people at this function. It was like some sort of barbecue. And matter of fact, I'll even go as far as to tell you, this was a dream, but I can tell you where I was. I was in the yard of Professor Marshall, Woodville Marshall's yard. I was in his property. And he has a nice balcony, a nice patio that overlooks the West Coast. I was there, and I remember seeing this cloud forming, and it kept forming. And at a point, it developed into the head of a horse. It was a beautiful, beautiful stallion, and you could only see from the torso up to the head. But it had one eye, and its eye was looking down on Barbados. And it went slowly up the West Coast as far as my eyes could see, maybe as far as St. Peter or so, maybe St. Lucie, I don't know. And it came back down galloping. Went down to Bridgetown, and it turned and it came up with more speed. And it did this about 3 or 4 times. And at one point, at about the 5th or so time, all this water came onto the land and literally flooded up to where we were by the university. Everything else was washed away. I remember I jumped up. I was so petrified. I was scared. It wasn't late at night either. It was still fairly early in the day. In the evening, I think it's about 11 o'clock or so. I remember making the first call to Errol and telling him what I had seen. Errol said to me he was aware of someone who had that similar dream just previously. And the person, it was a husband and wife. They were the ambassador. They were ambassadors to Barbados, and they promptly left Barbados. I know who they are. I won't mention their names on the show, but a few weeks later, I'm sleeping again, and I saw the rains, the weirdest rainfall I've ever seen in my life, coming from the south, all this in Philip, all that area. And this rain fell for 2 or 3 days straight, but it was like a mist. It wasn't a downpour. It was just a mist. And when I saw this, Marcia, I left my home at Sanford, where I was living at the time. And I went to 6 Roads trying to find shelter because the water was rising so high.
Wow.
And I made it to Princess Margaret School. When I walked into Princess Margaret School, all I saw was yellow. Everybody was wearing a yellow raincoat. Everyone. But I didn't recognize anyone in that building. No one. Everyone was saying that we're in the same raincoat, the same color, and it was amazing. There's more to that story if you read it properly. But if you think
so, what do you think the dream means?
Well, we're being influenced by powers that we're not used to. There are things being done around this island. I've seen by accident once or twice where I've actually walked up onto ceremonies being conducted in this place. I saw it in Pelican Village. I saw it out on Bay Street a couple of years back.
So when you say ceremonies, what are you talking about?
Ceremonies. People that are performing certain acts in this country. I don't want to say whether I agree with it or not. Obviously, I don't. But I'm not going to debate that. Not because I'm afraid of anything. I just believe that we are all sovereign, and just because you choose a certain lifestyle and I choose another does not make me any more or any less sovereign than you. But if we have a code of conduct and a set of rules that we all agree to, then your lifestyle and my lifestyle can be very different, but what we share, we respect each other in that regard.
So if you were to summarize the meaning of this dream to those viewers who are watching, what would you say in summary? What is the meaning?
Let me ask you a question first. I knew this question would come, but let me ask you a question first. Have you listened to the winds? Have you watched the weather? Have you watched the rain? Have you watched the rainbows? The other night about 9:30, I was in St. Peter area and I saw a rainbow literally coming up from St. Lucia and spreading across. At that time, I've never seen a rainbow at that time in my life, ever. I have pictures of rings in the skies. Midday, I saw 3 rainbows on the same day, all doing different things at Warrens. I have them all. I've taken pictures. I've circulated them to people that I know, right? I'm now seeing other people with pictures. A good friend of mine was in, what do you call it down there? Where are you going towards Combermere, Waterford Bottom. He was driving in Waterford Bottom one night a couple of weeks ago, and he saw this most unusual ring around the moon. And he stopped and went back. He literally went back. He'd driven away from it, went back and took the picture and sent it to me. I said to myself, and I will continue to say, Be careful. When Noah was preaching, people laughed and they said, "Ah, foolish old man! Look, he's building an ark in the desert." Barbados. I'm going to tell you something. I'm not a prophet. I'm not even here to prophesy about anything, and I don't talk about these things often, except amongst my core group. Barbados, you are going to be tested. The decision you make on the 19th of January is going to determine the God you love or the devil you love. And whichever decision you make, you're going to have to live with it, because you will pay the price one way or the other. But there's different prices. All I will say to you in answer to your question earlier, Marcia, we are now chattel of several different influences. The yellow coats speak for themselves. St. Philip speaks for itself.
What is said when you say St. Philip, and I'm really trying to break this down, because as you're saying, there's a warning, and the warning, you believe, is for people to be careful of what happens on the 19th. Because you're saying this is a very crucial election, and it is more than just putting somebody in power, but we're choosing basically what it is that we believe in. Is that what I think you're saying, sir?
That is exactly what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying.
But why St. Philip? Why St. Philip? Let's talk tonight.
No, it's not just St. Philip. I first told you about the West Coast. What will happen for disobedience, for going against God. St. Philip now was a lesser intrusive, but a more powerful sign than the West Coast. The West Coast is physical destruction. St. Philip didn't destroy. It was flooded, but the people could still function. Right? But you are now all the same. You look the same. You do the same. You know, everything is the same. In a garden, you don't plant the same flower. There are many flowers, even some weeds and some thorns in the garden. But the garden now had all the same flowers. So are we being turned into servants? Are we being enslaved? Are we being, I don't want to, I'm here watching the screen. I don't want to be, a spreader of theories and all this stuff, all this. I don't want any part of that. I want people to be logical. All right. Our ports have been leased out, both of them, for 20. I think it's 25 years. I heard they were announced during the week of Christmas. I heard the announcements. The announcements were made, and it was made all during the time that we were drinking our fine wine and eating our ham and turkey and macaroni pie and all of that. They were making the announcements. Most people didn't hear it. I called friends up. I said, "Did you guys hear this?" They were telling us, so we can't say that we weren't told, because all they have to do is publish what they're doing. But they're doing it so sneakily that most people are not aware. And then they can't come and say, "Well, I wasn't told," because they'll say, "Well, look, here's the ad. This is what we published this in the Gazette. We published this on the radio on such and such a day." They will have proof of it.
I mean, let me hear from people what Kathy Weeks is saying. I saw the map in the park on the water. Is this a dream you had, Kathy Weeks? Is this a dream? Adrian Hines is Jennifer Best is saying to tell you to say what's on your heart. Be real with us. What's on your heart?
I love that.
Philip, this is Philip Springer Catlin, who is in the studio with us, and he's a candidate for St. Thomas with BSP, Barbados Sovereignty Party. And Philip Kathleen, along with his party, they have filed an injunction against the election, whether it is going to cause the election to be stopped. At this time, we're not 100% sure of that, but this is what has happened. And he's just been targeted, I believe, spiritually, as he was on his way to file the papers. His car was totaled. He had a head-on collision with another car this morning. He's lucky that he's alive. Is as he puts it, his BMW has been written off, and the other car is written off, but everybody's alive, and he's here with us sharing this vision, this dream that he had. What are your thoughts about it, guys, as you listen? I know Mr. Hines is saying, he says Bajans will make a decision as they've always done. They will do so based on their immediate economic condition and concerns. We know that most Bajans are hurting economically, and all we're doing is talking, but the BLP is putting money in these people's hands to win an election. How do you counter that given the needs of the people? I don't like this buying of votes, but it's really that what we're faced with. What are your thoughts? I mean, this is the reality he's given us, because you're saying be careful of what you do on the 19th, but this is the reality that Mr. Hines is giving us.
Agree. I have to agree with Mr. Hines, because I've been alerted several occasions now where, for instance, the other day I got a call up in Bonnet's area. Fellows were getting a lot of money. I've had calls down in St. James area where people were getting plenty of money and this and that. I have never seen it personally. I've never seen it physically in my presence, but there's evidence or at least what appears to be evidence that some people are getting benefits. I was in a certain section of St. Thomas this weekend, and some fellas asked for my audience, and I gave them the time, and they said to me, well, I would like this much and that much and the next much, because the other people are offering me to bring votes to the table, and I had to decline, because first, even if I could, I wouldn't. I wouldn't buy a vote, not with a drink or anything else. If someone needs help, Marcia, I'm more than willing and happy to give them help. But I'm not buying any votes. I don't pay bribes. I've had situations here in the business world where people have asked me for kickbacks and bribes. I've never paid one yet. I've lost business because of it. Not because I'm opposed to giving somebody something. I'm opposed to being told that after you do your job that you're getting paid for, I should still turn around and give you consideration over and above that. Well, you haven't done anything extra. You haven't done anything special. It sets a bad precedent. And the worst part about it is that now it makes it harder for the guy who can't do that. Because when he can't do it, he's going to be ignored. His work's going to be left on the table, on the desk, or maybe in the garbage can, because the next guy can come along and give you an extra $500 or $1,000. We have to stop this kind of behavior, because the only people that hurt when this happens is the people that looks like me and you when we look in the mirror. All the rest have figured out the system. We haven't. But the system is easy to figure out. It is very easy. Just don't try to change it, because it can't be changed. You would change it. If you don't know what you're changing, what are you going to change it to? It was never designed by you, for you. So therefore, what is it you want to change? What you have to think of is, let me go and write the rules to the game that I want to play. Now you're on a level playing field, because you have a set of rules. And even if they decide to play by their rules, you're playing by yours, as long as it's within the rule of law. They send us to school here in this country to go to school and be educated to go and work for somebody else so we can survive through Saturday and Sunday to go back to work on Monday. You know, they don't give you equity in your home that you can use to invest. They don't give you equity on your collateral that you can invest, but they'll give you a car loan that by the time you finish paying for it, the car is already done, rotted away or whatever, you know. When you buy a home here, they don't give you a deed. I find that amazing. You buy the most important asset of your life, and until you pay it out, and then you have to turn on pay somebody a release to get your deed that you've been paying for. I find that very backwards, quite frankly. If you could give me, if you're under the law, you have to give me within 7 days, 7 business days, a bill of sale for an asset that I acquire. How come it takes me 30 years to get my deeds to my property? You know why? Because they don't want you. You're building equity in your property over 30 years. If you started out at $50,000, in 30 years, your property should be worth probably $500,000. But because they're holding the deed, you cannot mortgage your property. You cannot go and get a line of credit against. You can't put a second mortgage on there or any of that. So you are basically paying every month like clockwork, and you're working hard. But now by the time you finish paying that mortgage off, you're 60-something years old. No bank's going to lend you money, even if your house is paid off. So what they do is they eat up the clock on you. It's like a basketball game or something coming down to the last couple seconds, and the player just dribbles the ball all over the field because he don't want you to get the ball to put in the net to even the score or to even go ahead of you. So this is a game that has been played here for many, 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 many years. Not just now. It didn't start 50 years ago. They tell you, oh, we don't do equity loans. No, some of them are getting a little more creative. The Trinidadians, I think, are a little more creative, but they see an angle that the white colonials didn't have to because they already had it. They owned it, so they didn't have to give it to you, right? So all I'm saying, these are the things that we have to look at in a republic. We are now a new creature. We are no longer an independent under the British system, under the Commonwealth. We don't have a big daddy or a big uncle to defend us. If tomorrow Jamaica declares war on Barbados, Barbados better have a defense force to fight off Jamaica. I'm using Jamaica, not that, but it could be America. It could be China. China comes down, give you 2 slaps upside your head. What you going to do? Who are you going to call? Who are you going to call? So you see, what I'm saying to my people, you are now naked and you're up for grabs. And there are people that are bargaining for your soul. There are people who are taking you and you're being sold, even as we speak. And the 19th day of January is a significant day. It's a significant day because that's the day that you will decide which master you want to serve, and you will be the chattel of that master thereafter, probably for the next couple of 100 years. It's a simple process. Choose to serve your God, the God, and yourself. Do not give over your power to some foreign entity that does not have your best interest. Your surrogates are doing that and hoping that they will be the ones to benefit. You're going to find some super wealthy people emerging, but the rest are going to be very poor. I'm going to tell you a little something here, and I promised Fallon I wouldn't get on this until he come on the show, but I have to tell you that there's going to be a food shortage just now. The supply chain has already been interrupted. By about March of this year, if you're implanting a few edibles, a few heads of cabbage and some carrots in the ground and have 2 or 3 chickens in the backyard, I wish you well. I'm sorry, people. I don't care how educated you are. I don't care what job you hold. When you go in the grocery store, you're going to find yourself either outpriced or it ain't there. That's coming. I'm not telling you this because I am so smart it is happening. It is by design, just like the pandemic that we're in now. By design. I'm not saying that COVID is not real. It sure is. I've lost a few friends now in recent times. Douglas Trotman, attorney at law, one of the first people I met when I came into Barbados. Young man, younger than me. I saw his family at the funeral home there 2 weeks ago. And I would say to you, folks, that whether you agree with me or not, whether you like me or not, doesn't matter. It does not change what is going to happen. All I can be is be a voice in the wilderness. Mm-hmm. I will tell you that I had a long talk with my children, and I've had to come to terms with the reality of what we're facing. Mm-hmm. And I've had to come to that place with them where I've had to say to them, we may never see each other again in this lifetime. And I'm prepared for that. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. But I have to be honest and faithful in what I do. It's not about me. It's about all of my relatives and friends who are going to be impacted upon by this type of governance that we're under. Mm-hmm. And the truth of the matter is we do not know what we're under because it's been told to us, but it's been done subliminally through the back channels. It's always been told to us. We just haven't got our ears in tune, listen carefully to what is being said. Now, what makes me so smart that I can hear? I don't know, maybe the God lessons, whatever. I just happen to interpret and see and hear what
you're very much in touch with what is going on spiritually around us. And I believe to some of what Mr. Springer is saying, and he's from the Barbados Sovereignty Party, the candidate for St. Thomas. And Mr. Springer is saying that this election on the 19th is very, very important because we are not just choosing who is going to govern us, but he believes that we are choosing our God. I believe that's what Mr. Springer is saying. Mr. Hoyt had a question here, Mr. Springer.
Sure.
About the documents that you served, because you have just filed an injunction against the election that is happening, and who he's asking were the documents served on the Can you explain on that, please? Explain.
Well, when you file an emergency application, you have to then identify who the principals are in that action, and then you have to have service performed on them, meaning the documents are sent then by a bailiff or a marshal to the individual, depending on who it is. And that is exactly what took place this afternoon.
Okay. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Hoyt. Mr. Hines is asking, he said, let me ask you, Mr. Kathleen Springer, in your canvassing, have you asked voters what is their view or opinion on political representation? He's asking, what does it mean to them? What are their expectations? Indeed, what are your views of the same? Do they coalesce with that of the voters? There's a lot of questions, but it's all connected here.
Yes. Very good question, Adrian Hines. And one day we will have a conversation. You can call me anytime, my friend. Marcia can give you the number. In any event, the people out there are asking a lot of questions about current representation. It's not BLP representation. It is about our system of representation. There are people that are telling me in my constituency that they have not seen a representative in 10 years or more. A young man just left here that does a lot of volunteer work with me. He just left here a couple of minutes ago. And he's out in the streets. He's out there talking to the people. And even the day of the poll, when I went to register as a candidate, I heard the people saying They were fed up that they don't see. Everybody takes them for granted. You know, you give them the vote and they just disappear for 5 years, and then you see them. The lady said to me the other day, that's when I see my representative right there on the pole. I've been hearing that over and over and over again. Now, the young man that just left here, he was unemployed for about over 2 years when I came across him. And he was living farther up in St. Thomas. I won't say where for his own identity, for his own protection. But he has a son, and he's a single father. And he wasn't working. But when I found out, I would give him a little $150 or $200, depending on how my pocket was feeling for that day. And if I give him $150 today and tomorrow he needed another 50, I'd give it to him if I have it. I'm not telling anyone that I have a ton of money in my pocket to give away. But what I'm saying is, at one point, he came and he started doing little odd things for me here and there. He would even drive me around in my cars. And it got to the point where he didn't have a car, but he had a son that had to get to school. And I gave him one of the cars. I said, you take that one. I gave it to him. I didn't even charge. I gave it to him, a little Mazda. And he drove that for some time, and he started getting odd jobs here and there, and he started making a few dollars, and he started getting around. Eventually, the car broke down, and he called me. I said, you know, I just getting on my feet now and things going along, but I don't have the money to fix the car. I said, okay, bring the car back. So we got a wrecker, go get the car. And he came by my house. I gave him my Jeep. I said, take that. He's had that Jeep for a year and a half. If you see the condition of that Jeep, it looks newer than when I bought it. That man looks after this vehicle better than I take care of my other cars, because he really appreciates the fact that he has a vehicle. Now, he didn't pay for it because I didn't ask him for anything. And it's not given to him. I gave him the car, but not the Jeep. I loaned him the Jeep to drive. For a year and a half, he's been driving that. He now has a job, full-time job. He can maintain himself, maintain his child. In another year or so, I will expect him to promptly bring my Jeep back and put it back where he got it from, and have him start buying or paying for his own. The reason is that you have to give people a hand up.
And is this gentleman a part of your constituency?
Yes, he is. But at the time, he was not. He became a constituent only because I decided to run in the election. But at the time, I wasn't thinking about that. There's a young lady in St. Philip that has 3 children. And one day I was in my house, and I was driving actually on the street, and I saw her walking with the 3 kids. I used to admire her because, man, this girl's hustling early in the morning and hustling at night in the dark, walking with those 3 kids behind her. And she has to pass my house to get home. And one day I saw her hustling today. So I decided I'm going to go there. So I pulled up. I said, would you like a ride? And she said yes. And I took her to the bus. She'd actually missed the bus already. So to get to work, she would have been late. I drove her right into Bridgetown. Let me tell you, a couple of weeks later, I heard someone at my door, and when I came, it was her, and she was crying, and she was upset, and she didn't have money to buy stuff for her kids to go to school, and school day was the next day. It hit my heart so much that I said to her, I didn't tell her at the time, just come to see me tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, the next day, she came, and I took her in town. I said, buy what you need. I didn't tell her anything, just buy what you need. And she picked out the stuff. I didn't look over her shoulder. Matter of fact, I went in the park and sat down. I gave her some money, and I went and sat in the park, in Queen's Park, for a little bit and watched the people. And eventually she came, she called me and said she was finished. And when I came, she had these bags with uniforms and this and that. And she gave me the receipts, and she gave me the rest of the money. I said, no, that's your money. I give you that. Is there anything else you need that money can buy? We went to the grocery store at Emerald City, and she bought groceries for her kids to have breakfast to go to school. Now, I say that not to pat myself on the back, but because, you see, any of us can fall down. All of us can fall down. But all it takes is one stroke of kindness to turn somebody around, to pull them up. And that same person that you pass by tonight walking on the street hustling to get home to feed her kids might be the same person as a nurse in the hospital that when you get sick gotta go and clean your behind. Or maybe the same person who is the janitor at the school where your children go to school, or whatever. I don't want to demean anyone or anything. A janitor's job is important too. But I'm saying, let us not look down on people. We are sovereign people.
So you're talking actually in your party, the Barbados Sovereignty Party, you are saying you're giving people a hand up.
Hand up.
And I actually do have a video here that I want to share, you know, about, this is your profile video. And if you, because we only have a couple more minutes, 6 minutes, actually, before we close, and you know, tonight, and we're going to be doing the APP has their the manifesto launch that is coming up. So let me just take this opportunity to show this video to our audience tonight. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Out of any scattered, we are one.
This is the Barbados Sovereignty Party. I'm Philip Catlin, candidate for St. Thomas.
I'm Michael Thompson, candidate for St. Peter. Good evening, everyone.
We are here today to, one, announce our candidacy to the wider public of Barbados, even though some of our constituents would already know who we are. And we are proud to say that we are here to represent and to be a voice for the people. In these times that we're in with COVID and pandemic and all of the madness that has been going on for the past 2 years, to find ourselves at this time in an election just adds more stress and concerns to the people of Barbados. We feel that it is time, given the fact that we're a new republic, that we start to look at the ways that which we can reform the method by which we elect people to represent us. We've had the British colonial system for many years. It's 55 years since we've been independent, and in 55 years, nothing has changed much in the way of improving the lives of the average Barbadian.
We can see that Barbadians at this time is in what many will call a situation of hardship. Hardship because we are in lockdowns, many people are out of jobs, many children are stuck away in their homes. Most parents have issues with who they leave their children with, all because of the pandemic. And then, on top of it, we have issues where some people do not get proper water, proper bus systems. And in my parish, where I'm running, we're having a whole lot of issues there that needs to be clarified. Most of the young people are out of jobs. They want to know where the jobs are going to be. They want to know if there's going to be anything created for them that can make a difference in their lives. We're more here to say to the people, we're coming to you to find out from you what you want. A manifesto is good, but if we do not know what the people want, what you want is important. The most important thing is how you feel, how you want to wake up tomorrow or after this election. In order for all people to get back to where we should be as a strong people, a righteous people, a God-fearing people, we're going to need to have a righteous government ahead of us. Not a situation where you're here and there and everywhere. We have to focus. The majority of the people here in Barbados are said to be Igbo or Ibu or Hebrew. And if you're Hebrew, this is the calling. These are the times for the calling, for the kingdom has come. But if the kingdom is come, are you prepared for it? We should be prepared to meet the Most High God in the time that is set. This is the time that is set, and we can see the trial and tribulation of these times. So, if you see
we're going to show some more of that that video later on, and when we have tomorrow as well, because we went into the conversation so much we didn't get a chance to show it all, but I promise you that we will show it all. But we would have had this time an hour and a half for BSP, and we're going to now go over to APP. So I want to just thank you so much, Mr. Springer, for coming on, and I want to thank you for the sacrifice, that the financial sacrifice, plus you know your car is totaled, and we thank God that you're alive tonight, and that you have made on behalf of Barbados to file this injunction. So thank you so very much, Mr. Springer, and all the best to you and the Barbados Sovereignty Party. Thank you. What a great
Thank you, and thank the audience. And I want to say it's always a pleasure, Marcia.